Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast. My name is Mo, and I'll be sitting in the host chair today. This is the Church Hub AI edition. I'm back with Mr. Rick Bulman, who brings over 30 years of pastoral experience. And last week, we talked about the journey from calling to fatigue and how pastors can move from inspiration to exhaustion. Today, we're taking that a little bit further, a little bit deeper dive beyond fatigue into something that's more sobering, which is the reality of pastoral burnout. And we're going to look at stats, we're going to look at personal stories, and we're going to unpack some of those factors. So, Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Mo.
Rick, last episode, pretty eye-opening, and we ended it with fatigue. How do you define the difference between fatigue and just full-on burnout?
Yeah, there is a difference. I'd say fatigue is like hitting a wall at the end of a long week. You feel drained, but a good rest, it's going to fix it. But burnout, on the other hand, that is when the wall sticks around. It's not just being tired, it's feeling like you can't refill your tank at all. So burnout has a way of convincing you that no amount of vacation or a quick reset will fix it. It's deeper than that. You really genuinely feel that the well has gone dry.
Yeah, the statistics on pastoral burnout are staggering.
Yeah.
So can you share some of what's been happening nationwide?
Absolutely. Basically the numbers are pretty tough. In 2024, about 40% of pastors were at high risk of burning out, and more than a third were thinking of quitting. So we've got thousands of churches that close every year. Why? Because leaders are exhausted. And here's the thing. I just realized that this week. Behind every stat is a pastor's family. Behind every stat is a congregation. Behind every stat is a community that feels the ripple effect of pastoral burnout. So these are not just numbers on a page. Burnout is threatening to reshape our spiritual landscape.
So behind the numbers, what are the main factors that push pastors over the edge?
Well, a few big things stand out to me. One is isolation. Some pastors feel like they have no space to be honest. Another would be the constant unrealistic expectations that this whole thing that the pastor is supposed to do it all kind of a thing. And of course, there's this nonstop workload. I'm a football guy. I do fantasy football. I don't know about you. I love the sport. And the thing about football and even baseball and basketball and all other sports, they have this thing that's called an off season. We've all heard of it, right? Where the players rest and reset.
Absolutely.
Ministry isn't like that. It doesn't really have an off season. You might get a 2-week vacation here or there, but no off season. So pastors can have a hard time, fully recharging. So if that's happening, then that's when joy starts to dry up and duty takes over. And it's just this dangerous shift in the pastor's life.
Rick, can you share a time where you personally crossed from fatigue into the edges of burnout?
Yeah, unfortunately, there were 2 distinct different seasons. You'd think I'd learned it the first time, and I didn't. 2 different seasons in my life where burnout hit me. I didn't just feel tired or worn out. I actually felt broken inside. But in both seasons, I remember an experience I had while driving, and out of nowhere, I just broke down, started crying. I just was bawling to the point where my vision was blurred and I had to wipe my eyes just to stay on the road. Like literally it was coming down faster than I can see. I wish I had windshield wipers. They just weren't working. And it was, here's the thing. It wasn't triggered by anything dramatic. It was just a simple thought I suddenly had. And next thing you know, I was overwhelmed with emotion. And it was an emotion that didn't fit the moment. So in that moment, I was thinking, wow, something is wrong. This is not normal. Another sign for me I had when I overreacted with my son, Josh. I still feel bad about it. He's 29. He's not 16 now. He had a bad attitude, as 16-year-old boys do from time to time, and I snapped at him. But the way I snapped at him was completely out of character for me. So my response didn't match the situation at all. And in that moment, Mo, I recognized it and it jolted me. And I did. I went back and I hugged him. I apologized to him. I told him I loved him. But it was also that moment that made me think, I need to go see a doctor because I knew something deeper was off. And one more, I was watching the Seahawks play. Again, back to football. And the defense gave up a touchdown. I remember like it was yesterday. And this was regular season, mind you. There's no major playoff. It wasn't a game deciding kind of a play. And they gave up a touchdown. And I got so angry. Like, I don't usually yell or talk to the TV, but I remember getting so angry. And then that anger, I felt like I was about to cry. And I was thinking, this is not normal. Like, this is a major red flag. So, it wasn't about football. It was about being worn down to the point where small things triggered outsized emotions. And so in those 2 seasons, Sundays were numb to me. I was just wanting to get through it. Before the service, I remember fantasizing about just going home and drinking Dr. Pepper and eating Lay's potato chips and vegging on the couch. I was more about that than I was about the thing I was stepping into. And prayer felt empty. I knew it wasn't normal tiredness anymore. I was on autopilot, looked fine on the outside, but on the inside, I was running on fumes. So that's my story.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of pastors out there probably have their own stories as well. So, how does burnout ripple out and affect a pastor's family,
Yeah.
staff, congregation?
Yeah. It's never just the pastor who feels it. Everyone around them does too. The family notices it first. And the reason is because they get all the behind the scenes attitude and temperament of a burnt out pastor. The staff notices it because the pastor just doesn't have the capacity to carry their normal duties anymore. And at first, it starts like this. Hey, can you help me out with this? Sure, because they're nice people. But over time, more and more of that load gets shifted onto the staff's plate. And in some cases, the staff even feels like their job responsibilities have kind of changed. And here's the other thing. I believe the church notices it as well. Now, they may not be able to put their finger on it, but they can start to sense tiredness. So burnout, in my opinion, is never contained to one person. It ripples out and it reshapes the whole environment around the individual that's burning out.
Yeah, so none of us are immune. No pastor is immune to that. So we all have to have it on our radars. What can
Yep.
pastors do to guard against sliding from fatigue into burnout?
A few things. Number one, make sure you have a real, if I can italicize that word, real Sabbath rest that you never compromise on. You schedule that sucker on your calendar because it's important. I would say set some boundaries around people's demands. Be okay saying no and shed that feeling of I'm letting them down. No, you're letting yourself down. And that's important. An unhealthy pastor is no good to his congregation. So don't let yourself down. I would say have some peers you can be honest with, and don't hesitate to get counseling if you need it. Getting counseling is not weakness, that's wisdom. You need to do that. And then I'd also say find tools that can offload some of the repetitive tasks so that you can focus on what really matters, which is your physical and mental health, your family, and the people God's trusted you to shepherd.
So talk to me about the role then that vulnerability plays in recovering from burnout.
Vulnerability is everything. Healing starts when you can say, I'm not okay. And you begin to let others support you. Once you break isolation, you open the door to grace and real recovery.
Rick, what encouragement would you give to the pastor listening today who feels burned out right now?
I'd say burnout doesn't mean your calling is over. It's just a sign you need renewal. And then I'd also say you're not alone. You're not alone. Take a step back, catch your breath, let yourself rest and reset, and let others step in to help. We mentioned this, I think it was last week on the last podcast, but I think it's worth repeating. Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Well, if what you're carrying doesn't feel light, chances are you've picked up some extra yokes you were never meant to carry. Maybe it's the weight or yoke of people's expectations that you've added to what Jesus is asking you to carry. Maybe it's the weight or yoke of guilt. Maybe it's just your own impossible standards. It's like piling on one heavy wooden yoke after another until you're crushed. So to the pastor or anyone for that matter, if in this season, my encouragement would be pause and ask yourself if you've been stacking on those extra yokes. And if you have, I would bring it to the Lord. I would repent, say, Lord, forgive me. I'm sorry. Lay them down. And it's in those moments that's where you're going to find real rest and healing as you let the Holy Spirit meet you right there. So it's in these seasons where we're burning out, we have to just lay it down. This is hard for pastors. This is so difficult. And I know I struggle with this. We have to let go and let God take care of the ministry so we can do what he's called us to do, which is to take care of ourselves as a pastor. And so many pastors, we just can't walk away for a month or we can't walk away for 3 months because we fear that. Well, but we're sacrificing ourselves, and God has never asked us to do that.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate you sharing that. I think there's a lot of pastors out there that are suffering from fatigue, and a lot of them are probably sliding into burnout and they don't even know it. So if you're a pastor out there and this is really resonating with you, please reach out to us at Rising Tide, to Rick at Church Hub, and we work with pastors to help them either stay on the right track or get back on the right track, and none of us are exempt for it. Thanks for joining us today on this episode 3 of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast in partnership with Rick and Church Hub AI. Today's conversation, just to recap, was Beyond Fatigue, the reality of pastoral burnout. And remember, it reminds us that burnout, it's not a weakness, it's a warning sign. So use it as such. And if this encouraged you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with somebody who needs to hear it. And until next time, thanks a lot, Rick.
Thank you.